We're live.
Yes, we are.
Back for another session?
Yes, absolutely. Good afternoon, good morning, good evening, depending upon where you're at. I'm Frank Walker. I'm here with noted author Sarah Tirri with Tirri Talk.
Everyone. Thank you, Frank.
So, what would you like to talk about today?
Oh, I've got so much. Okay, where do I begin is the question.
Okay, let's start in the beginning. No, I'm just kidding. and God created everything in 7 days.
I think it took him 6 and he rested.
Yeah, actually, and today happens to be the 7th day.
Yeah.
So that's,
so here we are, working on the Sabbath.
Yes, but
Whose Sabbath?
we are, but we're doing God's work.
Oh, that's right. So we can justify not resting.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Just like the Blues Brothers were on a mission from God. So.
We're on a mission from God.
106 miles to Chicago. We got a full tank of gas, half a pack of cigarettes. It's dark, and we're wearing sunglasses. Hit it.
First you trade the Cadillac for a microphone. Then you lie to me about the band. Now you're gonna put me right back in the joint.
They're not gonna catch us. We're on a mission from God.
Oh, gosh. On a mission from God.
Yeah.
Yeah, I guess a lot of people think they're on a mission from God. I wonder what makes the distinction between which God,
Yes.
right? Which God? Whose God are you on the mission on behalf of?
Well, that's a very good question. Yeah,
it
into
is.
itself.
Yeah.
But with that being said, we'll move forward into the book that you have written, at least one. You have 3 published books right now, correct?
Yes, adult books.
Yes.
Yeah.
And
They're not adult X-rated.
Yes.
It's just for
Yeah, I'm glad you still clarified that.
Because I do children's books as well.
Yes.
It would be a bit of a dichotomy.
Yes, very much so. Yes, adult reading, not
Yes,
adult
mature,
content.
spiritual, higher concept, sci-fi fantasy is the Starside Prophecy.
Yes, and say the name of the book again.
The Starside Prophecy.
The Starside Prophecy.
Yeah.
Yes. Tell me just a little bit about.
So-
Just a quick overview of what the idea is behind the book. You say it's kind of sort of a sci-fi.
Yes, well, that's the genre,
Okay.
sci-fi fantasy, but it's actually my memoir woven throughout it, and I gave myself a starring role. So I'm the anti-hero heroine in this book.
That's
And-
interesting.
yes,
Most
it's-
people don't write about
No,
themselves
I
in
know.
that aspect.
I know. Well, I decided to.
That's great.
Only because I didn't have a lot of time to come up with characters. I only had 30 days to get this first book written. So I
Okay.
thought I didn't need to come up with a character because I have my own character, my real life. So I was put in the book inadvertently because I needed to get a word count of 90,000 just to qualify for the competition. So I just ran my memoir and
Wait a
decided...
minute, 90,000
words. Yes, that was the first manuscript. The actual published book is 115,000. But when
Just an extra 25,000, nothing much.
yeah, you know, I had to take out 50. I had to slim it down.
Really?
Well, I put that in book 2. You see, when you start.
Ah.
Yeah.
But when I pick up a book, and I read books a lot, and I've read this book also, but I've never done it in thought of word count. It's always the amount of pages that I've ended up reading.
Yes, you wouldn't know about the words.
Yeah,
yeah,
but,
it just
but,
doesn't.
but that's mind-boggling when
Oh,
you
really?
stop and
It
think
sounds
about
like
it for
a
a
lot,
second.
doesn't it?
Yeah, I mean, and you're talking that was the minimum 90,000.
Yes. Oh, yeah.
You
I
know,
can
so
say it
that's
all in
that's
words.
mind-boggling in that aspect.
I
yes.
think with the Starside Prophecy, I had to create an entire cosmology. And that takes time because you're setting up a new world.
Yes.
It's not established anything. You've got to establish that. So that took up a bit of time.
Mm-hmm.
But I had to get everything done in 30 days, and it was 90,000 words.
Wow, that's
So, but I can't remember, what was the question you originally asked? Because I went off at a tangent thinking about word counts then.
yeah. just a basic general idea of the overall
Oh,
concept
okay.
of the book.
Okay. So I'm starring in the book, and I'm called back Starside, and I'm sent on a mission to planet Earth to reveal the nature and structure of this existence and how we can get out of the prisons that we cause for ourselves. So that's basically what the book talks about.
No.
We can each free ourselves from a negative reality, but we don't know unless we know the laws that govern this existence. So
Yes.
that was kind of the strong theme throughout it.
Interesting.
But then I had to entertain, had to be
Yes.
funny, had to be really shocking, had to be thought-provoking, you know.
And for those of you who don't know anything about the book, every word that she just said, the book is. It's entertaining, it's thought-provoking, it's all of those things.
Well, after I'd written
absolutely
the first manuscript, which was 30 days to get this 90,000, that was back in 2013, 12, I started writing it. And then I published it, I think, in 2019. So it took years of perfecting, of going in and really tightening up language, really tightening up concepts. And I'm a mother and I run a household, and so I have other things. So it wasn't a full-time job. I mean, although I have a lot of freedom now. But it did take years to pull that together because...
that was actually going to be my next question. How long did it end up taking?
I think it was like 6 years before I unpublished it.
Really?
And then it had to go through massive editing and I had to be really critical with myself. I didn't want to bore people. Had to excite people. Have to get people thinking, what the fuck's going on in this world? Because this world is way bigger than we think it is. And that comes out
by leaps and bounds.
Yeah.
And I agree 100%. There's no doubt about that. One of the things that you talk about in the book is reincarnation. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah, well, that's a very interesting concept. It's been around for thousands of years. And after my mother died, and we can talk about that, but after my mother died and I realised that she wasn't going to hell, that she was actually going to heaven.
What had made you think that she was going to hell to begin with?
Well, because... So in Is This the Best God Could Do, which is a polemic, and that was the first book I wrote, and that takes apart Christianity in 20 chapters. I break down why I don't think Christianity tells us the premise of our existence.
So
it's a bit of a rebellion in that book.
And
anger was motivating a lot of it. And I've calmed down since then, but you know,
over those 6 years, you kind of sort of
Is This the Best God Could Do? I started writing that in 2001. So that was much older. But I didn't publish it until 2007. So again, that took a few years to put together. But at the time, my housekeeper said to me, she came up to me and she kind of put her arms on my shoulders and said, "Sarah, is your mum saved?" And I'm like, well, what does that mean, saved? I mean, we literally found out 5 weeks before she died. She only had a few weeks to live. So 5 weeks, and my housekeeper Sandy, she's lovely. You still see Sandy. But she was warning me: is your mum saved? Because if she's not, she's going to hell. So I'm like, well, what does that mean? What does my mum have to do? Isn't she going to hell? Is she going to heaven anyway? That would put you in a bit of
a frantic notion.
I did. And then I had to try and get my mum saved, and my mother's losing her mind because she has a brain tumour. She doesn't know what the fuck's going on. And it was absolutely terrible. And then when I realised that God would never send my mum to hell, he's just not going to do that, then I could calm down. And then I had a bit of an axe to grind with Christianity, because at that point I was really busy trying to get my mum saved. Because I thought she had to say the words, I believe that Jesus Christ died for my sins and I'm going to go to heaven. So I'd really taken on the concept that you do in a kind of, I guess, a fundamental Christianity or an Orthodox Christianity.
And it just hit you all at one time.
Yeah, all at one time.
5 or 6 weeks prior to her passing at that
5 weeks she had. That's how much we knew.
Wow, that's pretty.
Yeah, it was pretty intense.
That's pretty heavy, actually.
That's in the beginning of Is This the Best God Could Do? I talk about that whole scene, her death scene in that. So, and then around that time, I just thought, well, where's my mum's soul? She's now dead. I don't know. Am I going to see her again? Where is she? So I started reading books about the afterlife. And I was a maniac. I was reading everything. And then I realised, and it was when I read, actually, it was Sylvia Browne's book. It was called The Other Side. And she was going through what reincarnation looked like. And then it just dawned on me, oh my God, I've lived on this planet so many times before. And I just woke up to the fact that I had lived before, and it was as real as me sitting here. It was, And I knew that I had been here.
You were transported kind of, sort of, in a way.
I knew when I read that book that I had done this before. Thousands of lives, actually. I absolutely knew, and it was like I remembered something. That's a great way of describing it.
Gotcha.
It was just a memory that came, like, oh, here we go. This is not one life. This has nothing to do with one life. This is loads of lives.
One Life to Live is just a soap opera on TV.
Yeah, there we go.
Not what we're actually living on Earth.
Well, we've got one life to live in our fat suit, Sarah and Frank, but we've done all this before. I mean, you've been a female, I've been a guy.
Yes.
We've been, I don't know, I think I don't know, but I think my daughter is a reincarnation of my father, and my brother's daughter is a reincarnation of my mother. So, But we'll see. I won't know that until I die. When I get to heaven, I have a lot of questions.
Yeah, you and me both on that one.
But just to finish about reincarnation.
Yes.
So it's a process that you and I have been through before, and we do it over and over again. So why is the big question?
I was just going to say, why do we keep coming?
Born?
Yes. Yeah, why?
So we have to experience the karma that we've induced. So the more karma you have, the more likely it is you're going to have a lot of lives. But maybe
Okay, hold on. Stop for just 1 second. What is karma?
Karma is an equal and opposite reaction. So if I were to get my mic and bang you over the head with it right now,
Okay.
and I hurt you, I'm going to experience the emotion that I cause. Now, it's not going to come maybe as a mic whacking over my head, but I'll bang my head on a door or something. So karma is an instant thing, and it keeps our life in balance. Now, the karma that we can't balance in a life, which could be heavy-duty karma, that has to come into a next life. So karma keeps us coming back.
It's a carryover then.
It's carryover, it can be. But it's not the point. I mean, the point of us being born isn't karma. That's just a byproduct of learning and evolving. The point to being born is to learn to focus our attention, because we have to bring our mind back to the now moment.
For what purpose? I mean,
'Cause if we
I'm
don't-
sorry, you're saying bringing it back to this now moment, but I mean, focusing our mind for what's the purpose to focusing our mind?
Okay, so to focus your attention, so we'd have to talk about my book. This is another one I wrote, which I published recently, called The Mirror World. And I talk about birds eating the pizza. I left it there last night. Oh, that's good. Well done, darling. You got a nice big piece.
I love it. For those of you who can't actually see, and actually you can't see even if you could see, we have a balcony right outside here, and the ocean is right outside the window. And Sarah got a pizza the other night, and she's been putting little pieces out for some of the pizzas.
Well, the pizza store, I ordered a personal pizza.
Yeah, tell them the story.
Okay,
That's
I ordered
good.
this
Yes.
personal pizza, and then when it arrived, it was this huge. I mean, it's like a family of 8 could have eaten this. And I'd only paid $20 for it, so I had to share it with the birds. So yeah.
and they are absolutely enjoying it. So that's awesome.
All right. So what
back
were we
with
talking about?
well, why we keep coming back.
Okay, so
reincarnation.
we're here to focus our attention. So we live in a quantum field. I call it a quantum grid in my book, and that is the point. And we talked about in the last session where everything happens. It's all in there, in the program, every script. So me sitting here now exists in this format, but there's every variation of this format going into the good sectors of the quantum grid and then going into the inferior sectors. And we're going to go everywhere. Now, in the quantum grid, it's our vibrational level. It's our vibration that creates a certain mood. Well, actually, the mood creates the vibration. So if you're very positive, you're doing nice things, you're grateful for the life you had, you're going to be in a good vibration, which means the life track in the quantum field is going to open up in a favourable aspect for you. If you live a life of bitter thoughts, acrimony, being a victim, you're going to go into the quantum field on the lower sectors.
So you're basically creating
your reality in this virtual reality game, which is the metaphor that I use in the book.
Interesting.
And how you can get into the good sectors, which is what we're all here to do, because then we can graduate, is learn to focus your attention. And you have to create your emotions. You have to create your thoughts. You cannot get sucked into your default setting, which are your thought forms.
And most people consider their emotions uncontrollable in a way.
Well, I think they are to some degree. They used to be with me.
Yeah,
when I was a basket case.
You know, okay, we'll get into that in
I hope
story. But I know when I was talking yesterday about some of the things I was talking about, all these emotions welled up, and it was completely uncontrollable in me. You know.
Yes, I think what happened with you though, you'd got right back into the emotion of how you felt, but you were doing that in gratitude.
Yes.
Because you were talking about how grateful you were just to have your life saved at the expense of someone who was willing to help.
Yes, and that's true.
I think you were. I think that's slightly different. You were caught in a thought form because you were presenting a story.
Yes.
And it just feels as live today as I guess it did back then.
Yeah, very much so.
But I think a lot of us get caught in thought forms, and it could go back to the past, it could go to the future, it could be something that you're planning. Now, the planning thoughts, like we had to plan all this. There's things that go into this.
Yes.
So that's useful, productive thinking.
Yes.
But I'm talking about the thinking where you're maybe having an argument with someone again in your head. Have you ever reproduced an argument in your head? You've wanted to say the second time what you should have said the first time. Just bullshit.
Damn,
like
if
that.
I'd only said that. Yeah.
Yeah. And then you relive it, and then you maybe go into a bad dream that you had or an unpleasant situation. But now your vibration is low, and that activates the quantum field, and that's what we've got to be aware of. We're causing our reality. So I'm 56 now, and I'm so happy I know the premise of my existence, because when I didn't, I was causing all sorts of bullshit for myself because I didn't know what we were doing here. And the quantum field that I'm talking about and the quantum grid, which I have in the mirror world, this is all being validated by science. This isn't me just making something up. They're understanding that we live in a quantum reality.
Yes,
and they've already done the
experimentation
to say that,
things, yes.
yeah, I mean, it's already been verified on a small scale. So I'm just taking the small scale experiments that have been done and just going, well, what if this is what's going on in the larger scale?
Using it to expand the idea of
yes.
what it is.
Yes, and it could be
to its fullest extent.
To its fullest possibility.
Yeah, and you know, if you're going to do it, why not?
Yeah.
You know, I mean, take it to its fullest extent.
Yeah, and we're just exploring ideas. I mean, I believe I've stumbled on the premise of my existence, and I know when I'm having a bad day what my external reality looks like. I can see it manifest. I can see the quantum field be a lesser version of what would happen had I been in a positive day, living my gratitude, doing nice things for people,
right.
just being the best version of myself.
Yeah.
And just really putting effort into doing that.
Yeah,
and
then somewhere along the line that became a saying not long ago, living the best version of yourself.
Yes, and it is really a great way of putting it, because we live with all sorts of inferior versions of ourselves.
And the problem is we just don't know we're doing it.
Well, that's when you've got to wake up to your own bullshit, haven't you?
Yeah.
You've got to look at yourself and say, okay, strip yourself back and just be aware of what you're thinking, be aware of what your motives are, be aware of what karma is, be aware that you want to graduate, and be aware that you're controlling your reality. And everything that you imagine, if you hold the right vibration and the same countenance that you had when you were imagining it with the thought forms,
right.
the quantum field opens up, and it can actually happen quite quickly. It's taken me so many years to work all this out, so my quantum field's not quite where I want it yet. But
it's a work in progress.
It's a work in progress.
But,
so we'll see.
But at least you know that it's a work in progress.
Yes.
You know, and that into itself is a huge step forward. Mm-hmm. You know, if people just would realize what they were doing or thinking. You know, I've had a couple of people sometimes say, again, I come back to the coincidence thing, and it's a weird thing where I have a person says, well, I believe in coincidences all the time. And it's like, well, yeah, that's an okay thing to do because they are coincidences to you. But the fact of the matter is you actually created that coincidence to happen.
Yeah.
Or if there was another person involved, that other person created the coincidence to happen with you at that time.
Well, you can't use the word coincidence at that point because coincidence implies that it's random.
Right.
So synchronicity has to be a better term, doesn't it?
Right. But that's what I'm saying. And what you're saying is that you got all of this knowledge, how you came about it when you said you got the thought process for Gwendolyn in all pretty much in one.
No, well, that when I got the thought process, or that night I woke up and Gwendolyn was a fully formed character in my mind. That was back in 2013. But the awakening I feel that I had was in the August of 2000, before my mother died. So I was 33. I'm 56 now, and I'd put my kids on the school bus. Was walking back into the house, going into the kitchen to make a cup of tea, and I just got, it's just this language is difficult because, so I just got two sentences in my head. The first one was, this is not about you, it's about God.
Okay.
And I just heard these words and they weren't mine. I mean, it sounded like my voice, it was my voice I'm hearing, but it's just like, where did that come from?
Right.
So, yeah, it's not about you, it's about God. And then after that, immediately after that, this voice, whatever it was, said you're going to be a very successful author. at some point in the future. And the emphasis was on the very. And I was just completely mind blown because I just started writing for children at that point.
Right.
And my whole life changed. And I had to sit down. I couldn't get up for about 2 hours because my whole life was different because I knew what I had to do with my future.
But see, that's what I'm saying. Some people would say that was a coincidence that you ended up becoming an author like that, even though you had that dream. The difference is we understand, or you understand, the difference of it not being a coincidence. But some people would say, well, it was just a coincidence that you did this. But it's not a coincidence. That's my whole point in that aspect, that you actually had.
Well, I feel that was a separate situation from the concept of coincidence completely, because that to me felt like a mandate. This was almost a command. Your future is not about you, it's about God. So now I haven't even really considered God, just a bit in my childhood. I mean, I was around religion, but nothing that I was experiencing. Nothing that I was living. And then all of a sudden, it's not about you, it's about God. So that's when I went on my reading quest, and I just started reading hundreds, going into thousands of books about God. But I was just a normal person one day, raising my children. I had a 3-year-old, a 5-year-old, and a 7-year-old. I wasn't expecting.
So basically, the typical, I'm not going to say stay-at-home mom, but
I was a typical stay-at-home mum.
Oh,
Plus,
okay, all right.
I did that, and I was very fortunate. My husband, he's amazing. So I was able to stay at home, and I was able to raise my children.
That's great in itself. Yes.
Oh, it was wonderful. I couldn't have had anyone take care of them.
Yeah.
I'm just too mummy bear.
No, I understand. I know a few mama bears like that.
Yes.
You know, it's like, stay away, they're mine.
Yes, and I know what's best for them. You
Yeah.
don't.
I'm not going to have some preschool teacher teach them.
Oh gosh, yes. Oh my goodness.
Yes, I understand that.
But I also
nothing wrong with any of that because
no. Well, I was in a state-run
option.
daycare when I was 2 years old. My mother had to work, and I had to go there early in the morning. And I have some memories of this place, and we were there all day. I guess it was about 10 hours, and it was in a big town hall in Carshalton in Surrey. And yeah, I was there 5 days a week, and then I went to school. So then that's when. Then I was able to get out of there. But my mum had to put me in a daycare. She didn't have any choice. My father had buggered off, and she had to pay the bills. So I was just very lucky that my husband was able to pay the bills, and I was able to stay at home. But that's what I was doing when I had this this awakening, and my life changed.
Understand, that's what it was an awakening.
God, I don't know what it was. It was unbelievable. My life was just never the same, because I don't know that I just didn't think that I hadn't thought about becoming an author.
Right.
Hadn't thought about God, and now I'm on a completely different trajectory, and I was never the same. And then the following year, my mum died, and at the end of that year, I realised I'd lived on this planet before, and that's when I started writing Is This the Best God Could Do? And that was to dissect the premise of Christianity, to try and flush out what I believe was real about it and what wasn't, and not much was. And then I realised that, I've lived on this planet before. I'm reincarnating over and over again, and we can all create our reality by focusing our attention. And that's what we're doing here.
Yes.